Hi, my name is Seth McDivitt, and my student ID is 15809. I read the diary and life of David Brainerd as recorded and edited by Jonathan Edwards. Um, this book is such a wonderful um, just account of a life well lived, a short life. Um, Edward writes in the preface to the book, he says, there are two ways of representing and recommending true religion and virtue to the world. The one by doctrine and precept, the other by instance and example. Both are abundantly used in the Holy Scriptures. Edwards, as the editor and author of this work, essentially wants to present that life well lived as an example and encouragement to true religion. He does this by editing together commentary and reflection on the life of David Brainerd. David Brainerd was a missionary to Delaware Indians in the United States. He was an ardent missionary. He had great fruit and success among some of these Indians. And he did all of this with an unwavering respect for the sovereignty of God in salvation, which is a great boon to any particular Baptist or Calvinist Presbyterians, long as the argument been offered that one's Calvinism prevents missionary fervor. But the historical evidence is just overwhelmingly to the contrary. Men like David Brainerd, also Jonathan Edwards as a result of David Brainerd, but men like Adoniram Judson, George Whitefield, William Carey was greatly influenced by this work and the life of David Brainerd. The book is split into 7 parts. It covers basically from his life as a child all the way through to his death, interspersed in there with some information that Jonathan Edwards has that Brainerd doesn't include. Edwards notes of David Brainerd's final day that he expired on Friday, October 9th, 1747, and he says, when his soul, as we may well conclude, was received by his dear Lord and Master as an eminently faithful servant into the state of perfection of holiness and fruition of God, which he had so often and so ardently longed for, and was welcomed by the glorious assembly in the upper world as one particularly fitted to join them in their blessed employ and enjoyment. This book has been an enduring success and inspiration to Christians across the world because it is a plain and thorough examination of what consistent faithfulness can, among trial and tribulation and sickness, what that consistent faithfulness can accomplish with God's power. John Piper says of this work, he's answering the question, why is this so important for me? John Piper says, for me, it is that Brainerd's life is a vivid, powerful testimony to the truth that God can and does use weak, sick, discouraged, beat down, lonely, struggling saints who cry out to Him day and night to accomplish amazing things for His glory. William Carey, the founder and progenitor of particular Baptist missionary fervor, cooperation, an organization, he considered this work to be, John Piper records, a sacred text, that he loved this. David Brainerd labored at great peril to himself and in the midst of great physical sickness and difficulty. And he had much success because of his faithfulness. And one of the most remarkable things about David Brainerd's life is that he lived to be just 29 years old. I am 30. I turned 31 in December in a month. And compared to the life of David Brainerd, I have accomplished nothing. But what it does for me is it doesn't discourage the fact that I've had such little, of course, in the eyes of the world, accomplishment, but that what is possible with my small faithfulness, even amidst trial and tribulation, over the next 30 years of my life. A man like David Brainerd would have made who made such a good use of his first 29 years, would have made an infinitely greater impact over the course of his next 30. And I consider this work, this isn't the first time I've read this book. I did read it again for the class. Every time I read it, I'm struck by how mature and how faithful this man at such a young age was. Truly a man who ought not be despised and looked down upon for his youth, as Timothy was, a true minister of the gospel. And this book is just wonderful. I think it's one that every Christian minister ought to read at some point in their life. It's such an encouragement and a wonderful jewel for us to have in the church. And I appreciate that I got to read it again for the class. And I look forward to reading it again in the future.